Jack Della Maddalena and Carlos Prates is probably the perfect fight. I mean, if you look at this fight on paper, like, I've been thinking about it all week. I've been thinking about it since it's been announced, and I really can't pick a surefire winner. Sure, Carlos Prates has nukes in his hands and can put anybody out at any moment. Ain't that right, Leon Edwards? But also, Jack Della Maddalena is slick with the boxing. He does some things that makes Carlos Prates really, really hesitate in fighting. And that's what makes this fight so interesting. It's the stylistic matchup. It's not just a wrestler versus a striker, some of that boring stuff that we always see. No, this is two very different types of strikers fighting each other. Of course, Carlos Prates has the 100 MMA and Muay Thai and whatever else fights. He has 3 fights, 1 championship. He has been on a tear in the UFC since joining. He's only lost to who was Ian Machado Garry, and that's really it. Trevin Giles, Rad Key, Li Jingling, Neil Magny, Jeff Neal, and Leon Edwards now. Leon's by far his best win. But this fight with Jack Della Maddalena is his opportunity. It's his chance to stamp himself as, hey, I've beat 2 former champions in a row. It's time for me to face the champion. And at first, I was like, I don't know if I really care about Carlos Prates versus Islam Makhachev. But after watching the Ian Machado Garry fight, I'm like, I might have been mixing him up with Marcusio Rufy or something, because, you know, Ian Machado Garry is not the greatest takedown artist, but he didn't do a bad job of defending the takedown. Now, Machado Garry shot terrible shots, and he's nowhere near Islam, but I thought, for some reason, I had it in my head that Ian Machado Garry ragdolled him on the ground. Not the case. As far as Jack Della Maddalena, guys, I mean, obviously coming off that embarrassing Islam Makhachev fight, and everybody thought, oh, he had a chance. I thought it was a big threat to Jack Della after the Bilal Muhammad win, because Bilal Muhammad has such a wrestling-heavy style. But no, he got mauled by Islam in kind of a boring fashion. But before that, he was brilliant. Bilal Muhammad, Gilbert Burns, Kevin Hollins, then Basil Hafez, Randy Brown was a great win, Danny Roberts, Razman Ameev, and Pete Rodriguez, and Angelusa on the Contender Series. But it was those 2 losses, and then in 2016, and then him coming back. And it's crazy because he's only 29 years old. So Jack Della Maddalena and Carlos Prates, how did this fight play out? What makes this fight so interesting? I said it was a contrast of styles. And I mentioned I watched the Ian Garry and the Carlos Prates fight earlier. I also watched the Kevin Holland fight with Jack Della, that is. What really stood out to me in this fight, what really kind of, bear with me here, it's how Ian Garry won. Now, Jack Della Maddalena doesn't fight the exact same way as Ian Machado Garry does. Jack Della Maddalena fights a lot of hands. He'll kick, but it's a lot of hands and a lot of angles. Whereas Ian Garry, he threw a lot of kicks. He really kicked at the front leg of Carlos Prates a lot. Really kind of hurting that knee. He really attacked the mobility of Prates first, and his ability to follow him around. Now, it wasn't his ability to pivot, and Prates is going to kind of be a straightforward fighter. Sure, he'll cut an angle every now and then, but it's not kind of like Jack Della Maddalena cuts corners like not Lomachenko-like, but you know what I'm talking about, where he'll pivot off and catch some shots. We're not going to see that with Carlos Prates. What Ian Machado Garry was doing in that fight, he was really kind of setting up his own angles by limiting the mobility of Carlos Prates. Really good game plan. And it paid dividends well for him at the end of the fight when he really ran away with that. What I expect to see from JDM here is something similar, not quite kick heavy, but something similar to where he's kicking the legs, battering them out from under him, and then really kind of shaping him with volume. Another thing Ian Machado Garry did really well was attacking the open side. Okay, so it was a southpaw versus orthodox matchup. Ian Machado Garry would kick high, and that kept Prates' left hand glued to his chin. He said, I don't want to eat this kick. I don't want to eat this cross that Ian Machado Garry is throwing at me. So that really took away the hard weapons of Carlos Prates. And, thinking about it, I'm like, how can Jack Della Maddalena do that? What can he do similar to Ian Garry? He doesn't have quite the kicks, quite the dexterity that Ian Machado Garry has. So what blueprint is provided to us? I don't think wrestling's the way. I think it's a lot of pitter-patter volume. Think the Bilal fight. A lot of just, I'm touching, going, moving my head. Jack Della Maddalena likes to move his head. Not quite boxer level, but close enough. And then really throwing crosses and high kicks out of southpaw because he'll switch stances. Really throwing that to kind of dissuade the cross from Carlos Prates coming through. Now, on the other hand, Carlos Prates is more of an interesting case. Carlos Prates can come in here and do whatever he needs to do to get the job done against Jack Della Maddalena, but he's going to have to be careful about it. He doesn't want to just go in there and blitz. He doesn't want to go in there and just smash him out. That's not going to work against a guy like Jack Della Maddalena. But if it does, holy crap, we got somebody incredible on our hands. But what's going to have to happen is going to have to be pressure from Carlos Prates. And it's not going to be easy either because Jack Della Maddalena responds well to pressure. It's not going to be easy, but he's going to have to put JDM against the cage. We're not going to get to see any of the cool grappling from Jack Della because obviously Carlos Prates is a Muay Thai fighter. He's coming in here and he's throwing hands. He's not going to wrestle. That kind of bums me out because I do like the octopus guard that Jack Della plays, but push him against the fence, catch him with these elbows on the break. You really want to cut him up. A lot of the things that JDM does, you're going to have to put back into his court. You're not going to let him dictate the terms of engagement. You're not going to do any of this. You're going to have to really just slow him down. And that's really kind of where this fight's at. I like this fight. It's as close as it can be on paper. And I've got to go Jack Della Maddalena. I think Jack Della gets it done. I think the volume is going to be too much for Prates, and fighting on his terms is going to be near impossible. Let's go run down this card real quick because this is not very good, though, guys. Beneil Dariush and Quill and Salkiel. We're working on this film study for Salkiel. I haven't done a film study in forever, but I'm doing a big one on Salkiel. I quite like him. He might get nuked tonight, but I just watched him fight Nasrat Haqparast, another southpaw. So the southpaw from Benny doesn't really worry me too much for Salkiel. The way Beneil Dariush has been going, guys, like looking down this, left hook, 16 seconds from Benoit Saint-Denis. He beat Moicano, but knocked out by Saryukin, knocked out by Oliveira. Those are great names to get knocked out by, even the Benoit Saint-Denis. I think Salkiel gets it done. It puts him in a ranked spot. I think that's right where he needs to be. Tim Elliott and Steve Erceg. Elliott's so weird. I see him beating Steve Erceg. Marwan Rahiki and Ali Schmid. Who? Ali Schmid? Who is that? 4-2 coming into the UFC fighting on the main card. Has he even fought in the UFC before? I don't know this guy. No, this is his debut fighting on a main card. Shamil Gaziev and Brando Perrick. I would say this is the worst fight on the card, but then we got Tai Tuivasa and Louis Sutherland. Cam Ralston and Robert Bursek. Junior Tafa's fighting Kevin Christian. They're just like, hey guys, look at all of these Aussies, right? Y'all guys like Aussies, don't y'all? Jacob Malkoun and Jeremy Michart. That's an okay fight, I guess. Malkoun's fun, but I like me some GM3, even with his 37-21 record. Colby Thickness and Vince Morales. Vince, I love him. He's been on the show a couple times. 3 in a row. I'm down with the Thickness. I think he wins this. I don't know though, man. He lost to Taporian. Vince Morales can realistically win this. Wes Schultz is fighting again versus Ben Johnston. Jonathan Milcalf and Thimble Garimbo. Cody Steele and Don Marfan. Y'all see what I'm saying? This card sucks. They're in Perth with this. It really is Jack Della Maddalena and Carlos Prates truly carrying this card. But at the end of the day, that's what I'm here for. Jack Della and Carlos Prates early in the morning, so I'll have my evening to watch Benavidez. If you're watching boxing, do that. Subscribe to Heavy Hitters Boxing Show. That's my boxing channel where I talk about that other sport that MMA fans like sometimes. Fight Finders is coming out. This playlist right here features all 8 episodes, and I've got a new one working, and I've got something else cool coming for you guys that I can't quite tell y'all about yet. So stay tuned. We've got some cool stuff coming.